So before we get started, I'm going to ask my co-host to introduce herself, and sharing the stage with me, the virtual stage with me today, is Jill Koehler. Jill is our Associate Dean for Career Development. And I'm going to guess that many of the questions I'm going to hand off to Jill to answer today, because when we've done these sessions in the past, people have been very interested in what we do around career development. So Jill, if you could just give an introduction, and then we'll kind of walk through the presentation and open it up to questions.
Thank you, Dean O'Connor. Hello, everybody out there in virtual land. As the Dean said, my name is Jill Koehler. I am, a fun fact, I'm a two-time alum of Quinnipiac College. So I've been around for a while. I did leave Quinnipiac when I graduated and worked at Yale in their career office for 10 years. And then I came back to Quinnipiac. I've been here for 14 now. A little bit about some of the things that we offer to your students to help them be successful post-graduation and during their internship phase and journey in figuring out what they want to do and be when they grow up is we offer a required career development class, which is one of my most favorite things. I've been teaching it for 28 semesters. And in that, we teach about resumes. We spend 4 weeks on resumes. We do cover letters. We do elevator pitches. We work on how to approach companies. We even talk about how to shake hands. So for all you in webland, web to web, no more than 2 pumps. If you tend to be somebody who gets a little bit of moisture on your hands, you wipe them on your pants or keep a tissue in your pocket in advance and things like that. So in this class, I know students, and I know that I need them to step outside their comfort zone. And if I wait for them to do it when they're ready, it may be too late. So we require that the students participate in our career fairs and do an assignment attached to that. They have to do a practice interview so that after doing all their research, creating their resume, writing a cover letter, they then have to interview with a real live recruiter so they can work any bugs out and find out what they're doing well in some areas that they need to improve. And then we also offer one-on-one career counseling because we know one size doesn't always fit all. We run 3 career fairs a semester. And as a matter of fact, we have 2 career fairs coming up this week. We're doing one on Tuesday and one on Wednesday virtually. And we have 75 companies in attendance for that, real high-end companies ranging from EY and Deloitte to the Hartford Travelers, et cetera. And then on-campus recruiting is something that we do as well. For this semester, it's going to be virtual, but we offer that. We have a boot camp that we offer. I call it cradle to grave experience of everything from how do you use our online recruiting system, which we call QUCC, to providing LinkedIn headshots so that students have a great headshot, not just a picture with half of their arm cut off. And moms and dads and grandparents out there, just so that you know, I try to lure the students to attend the headshot so that they can print out a picture, put it in a frame, and give it to you as a holiday gift. So I always appeal to the cheapskates who want to do that. But we did that just last week. We run etiquette dinners so that when someone says, you know, please pass the salt, they know they have to pass the salt and the pepper together because they're married. We teach them everything there from what type of conversation is appropriate and when, how to exit and enter a chair. Like I said, we do practice interviews. So we run about 300 per semester. That's always a big hit. Resume critiques are available every day, 5 days a week from 9 to 5 a.m. 9 to 5 p.m. Feels like an a.m. We do career panels. And then last but not least, we have a fantastic mentorship program. And then we also have a mentorship platform that allows students to do very quick, we call it flash mentoring, should they have an interest in that. They have a question, they want to talk to somebody in a particular industry, they can log on to our platform called Bobcat Connect. And we have over 1,000 current alums for business in there that have volunteered to provide assistance from helping with resume reviews, interviewing, just general career advice. And then we have a system called QUCC, which is like Quinnipiac's version of Monster, where we have over 600 jobs posted and internships at any given time with over 7,000 employer contacts in there. And that is how students connect with our students through a platform. And so I just wanted to give you some ideas so you have a starting point for questions.
All right, great. Thanks, Jill. Hey, Jill, I think we do have more people in the waiting room, so if you
I will
could.
get them all.
All right, great. All right, and Jill's gonna be here and available for questions. So what we wanted to do today, just real quickly, is kind of walk you through the journey that your child is on. And we'll start with what really happens when students get here in their first year. And what we're hoping happens primarily is that they find a place at QU. So we don't want students to kind of, kind of enter their freshman year or their first year and think, oh, I have to choose a major. I have to know exactly where I'm going with all of this. Really, the first thing is just settling in. And I know probably in your conversations with your child, you're finding that some of that has started to happen. But just to kind of, kind of move this along, for you and in the conversations you might be having with your child, just kind of check in and see, are they getting engaged in campus life? Are they making both social friends and have they found a group of friends or colleagues that they might be able to study with? They're not always the same group of people. So the big thing, particularly in the fall semester, is really kind of, finding your place on campus and finding, not just your social friends, but some friends to study with. And I know that's a little bit challenging this fall. So we're all kind of working overtime to try to make sure students have connections. But it is something as a parent you can really help us with, and it's just kind of that gentle nudging to make sure you are trying to make connections. The second thing is one thing that we do fall of freshman year is we make sure students are aware of who their academic advisor is and that they know that they have an academic coach. So if you check in with your child, one thing you can ask them is, have they spoken with their academic advisor? You'll see the third bullet here is SB 101, Introduction to Business. That's a class that all of our first year students take. And in that class, one of their assignments is they have to go meet their academic advisor. Now this year they're doing that virtually, but they will have by this point in the semester had the opportunity to meet with their academic advisor. And they don't necessarily have to meet with an academic coach, but as a parent, if you haven't heard this message, it's one that you might want to kind of jot down. All of our students have an academic coach. Those are, part of the Learning Commons Center that we have here at the university. And each of the coaches, they work with a group of students from a particular school. So they kind of highlight or help a particular set of students in a particular school. So each student does have an academic coach, and that's someone that they can go to with any question from, I'm really not sure how I write a paper for the first year seminar, to, boy, I don't know, how I should be doing, how much time I should be spending on my math homework, or I might need some particular help with taking multiple choice tests. Is there something in the Learning Commons? Is there a workshop or somebody that I could meet with for help on that? So we want you to know as parents that every student has both an academic advisor and an academic coach. And also that if you inquire and you ask your child, do you know who your advisor is? And they say, oh, no, I don't know. They haven't told me about that yet. They did have an assignment in SB 101 to go meet their advisor. So that should have happened. And that's something if they say, well, I don't know who my advisor is, you can kind of gently nudge them to check in with their SB 101 instructor who can help connect them with their advisor. But anyway, the first year really about finding your place at Quinnipiac. And then your second step in this journey is really to make sure you're taking time to explore your options here at the university and within the business school. One of the things that we do in the business school is we have all the students, regardless of what their initial major is they all complete the business core curriculum before they go into their upper level or major level courses. And the reason this is a good option for students is we find that about a third of the students come in and they pre-select a major, and about a third will stick with that major that they started with. About another third will come in and they will have selected a major, but as they go through the business core curriculum and as they check out student clubs and organizations, they may find that something else piques their interest. So they may start as a marketing student and find out, you know what, I really like international business, or I really like that, that management class that I had, and they'll change their major. And then about another third of the students come into the business school and they will not have declared a major. They will come in as an undeclared student, and they will go through the business core and they will explore all their options. And it's really not until the spring semester of sophomore year, if you're a traditional student, or the start of your spring semester sophomore year, if you're a 3+1 student, that you really have to finalize your choice of a major. So part of the exploration is really making sure that you get all the business core courses in before you have to finalize a major. And also, all of the student clubs and organizations, both those within the business school and those outside the business school, are open to students. So we encourage students throughout their freshman year and into their sophomore year, just check out the organizations. You don't have to join. You can go to their meetings. You can see if it's something you like or you're interested in. But we do know at the end of the day, it's not just what you do in your academic classes. It's also how you get engaged on campus. And I think one of the things Jill would tell you is that when students go for internships and their full-time positions, one of the things that the employers are going to be looking at is how engaged were you on campus? Did you join a student organization? And hopefully, more importantly, did you get involved and did you start to take a leadership role in that student club or organization? So, you know, as a parent, one of the things that you can help with is really just kind of be that, you know, gentle nudging along to make sure you're checking out student clubs and organizations. You're eventually, hopefully, joining one or two of them. And most importantly, you're stepping up and trying to take a leadership role, because that's really going to be helpful when we get to internships. And then obviously, a lot of students want to look at different international opportunities. We're not going to go into all of those right at this moment, but you should know there's a wide variety of international options, from full-time study abroad to short immersion trips to even international internship options. So one of the things we're going to encourage students to do over the first couple of years is really check those out so you can build them into your plan. And then obviously using your open electives to kind of develop, maybe you have some interest outside of business, maybe photography, or, you know, we have several business students who do theater or different programs on campus. So plenty of opportunity to do that as well. So really the second step in the journey, explore your options. You have plenty of time to finalize your major, and really, this exploration is really important for students to settle in on what they really want to study. But once they have that, then the next step is really to begin to sharpen your focus. And this really occurs as you select your business major, and you start to take your upper level classes in your major. But students can add a minor or a second major, and some students will even add maybe 2 minors. And those are ways for students to kind of explore, you know, maybe multiple interests and really kind of use the minors and the second majors to build their resumes out as well. This is also a time to really work with Jill and our whole career development office to begin looking at internship opportunities. And then in addition to internships, what kind of real world experiences can you build into your overall program of study? So students here in the business school are going to have plenty of options for taking what they've learned in the classroom and really applying it in a real world context. Maybe if they're an accounting student, they can join the Voluntary Income Tax Assistance Program, which does tax returns for people here in the community, but those are real tax returns. We have other students working on micro-lending, student consulting projects. We have entrepreneurship students doing business plan competitions and launching businesses. So there's plenty of opportunity to really take what you're learning in the classroom and apply it in a real world environment. And that's where the learning really sinks in, and that's where students can really get excited about what they're doing. And at the same time, working with Jill's career development office to develop professional skills. And down the road, you know, a lot of students today are also thinking about continuing right on into a graduate program. So our 3+1 students have already made that choice. But down the road, as you get into your major, if it interests you, we have plenty of dual degree 4+1 options for students to consider. So that's kind of the fourth step: get into your major, find a second major or minor, build out your real world experiences, get that internship, and really kind of get yourself ready for the final kind of legs of the journey. And that's really our classroom to career. And these are all the things that Jill previewed when she introduced herself. But there's really every step of the way in terms of taking what you've learned in the classroom and building it into a career, getting that internship, getting that full-time appointment. Every single aspect of that part of the journey, there's a workshop or there's a step that our career development office has created for students to be able to do that. So a really robust career development program. And we know it works because we have had actually a 99% placement rate in the business school for several years in a row. So really the students are encouraged to do this. They do it, and they're successful when they go through this program. Now, before we get to questions, I do want to kind of give all the parents a little bit of information about how you can get information, and then how you can work with us sometimes, and one of the steps that you need to take. So first of all, we do have a weekly newsletter in the School of Business, and that newsletter comes out every Sunday afternoon, and it just sets up all of the events, all of the deadlines, everything that's going on in the business school for the upcoming week. So students only have to look at that one newsletter to know all the companies that are interviewing on campus, what the deadlines for submitting resumes are, if we have speakers that week, what time the speaker is talking, how you register for that. If a student club is meeting that week, it'll be in the newsletter. If there's deadlines sometimes for scholarship applications, or deadlines for, work study, positions. All of that will be in the newsletter, and it comes out to students every Sunday afternoon. Now, if you're a student, you automatically get the newsletter. But what we want you to know as parents, if you would like to get the newsletter, then you can sign up for that as well, and we will include you, and you will get it on Sunday afternoons as well. We think that's a great idea because you might notice something that you think it would be great if your child participated in that. And again, if you have that info and you're talking with them or texting with them, you can say, hey, I noticed in the newsletter that so-and-so is speaking. You might want to check that out. So we feel like that's a great partnership between what we're doing as faculty and in the dean's office to support students, and what you might be able to do as a parent to help with that. Now, the other thing you can do as a parent is we have an email address. It's right here. It's called sbdeans@qu.edu. This is an email address that's basically set up so that we log all of the inquiries into SB Deans, and one of our administrative assistants monitors it. And so we will respond to any inquiry that comes into SB Deans. So students often use SB Deans if they have a question about something they don't know the answer, don't know where to look it up. Maybe it's a registration question. Maybe it's something about how do I apply for this program or that program. So students know if they have a question about anything related to the School of Business or their program of study, or even anything related to the university, if they email sbdeans@qu.edu, someone will respond to them and help them get that information or help them get their question answered. So if your child says, boy, I have a question, but I don't know who to go to, you can help us with that by reminding them they can send that question to sbdeans@qu.edu. But it's also true that as a parent, you can send something to sbdeans@qu.edu. So we want you to know that you can do that as well. Excuse me, I just need to get a drink here. And then finally, we're all covered by federal laws around information. And often parents will call and they'll say, I'd like to know what's happening with my child in such and such a class. And we're really, really, really would like to help with that situation. But because of the way information is, required to be kept and monitored, we need your child to provide FERPA consent for us to be able to discuss many academic issues with you as a parent. So we're always encouraging you to just ask your child to make sure that they have checked off the FERPA consent. It's easy to do. They can do that in their academic profile. And once they've done that, then if you have a question for us or for a faculty member about an academic issue here on campus, once that consent has been provided, then we are legally allowed to talk to you about that. But we do have federal restrictions on what we can talk about kind of academically until FERPA has been, provided. What we really want you to know here is that as a parent, there's plenty of ways for you to get information. And we don't want any parent to be wondering, boy, I wonder how I can get that information. Just if it's not in the newsletter, just send an inquiry to SB Deans and somebody will get back to you and we'll reach out to you as soon as we can. All right, so with that, I am going to stop sharing my screen, go back to Zoom mode, and we'll open it up for any question you have about the School of Business or the university. And if we can't answer your question, we will definitely get back in touch with you. All right, give me a second to stop sharing.
And while you're stopping sharing, I'll address a question in the chat. So the question is, my daughter is a first-year student. Is it too early for her to be diving into the career fairs or related things? Or is it a good idea for her to get involved in her first year? So I encourage all students to get involved as soon as possible and as soon as they are comfortable and confident in doing so. We try to ease the students into it by starting with a career boot camp that provides them with information to prepare them for career fairs. And even what I always suggest to students in their first year is to go to the career fair to get a look and feel for it. Because it's kind of like for many of you out there in the crowd, you've been to trade shows. They're overwhelming, they're loud, they're busy, they're sweaty, there's people bumping into you. So I love to have our early on students attend so they can get a sense of what it feels like. They can get a sense of what other students are doing and how they're going up to the tables, how they're dressing, how they're interacting. And if they feel comfortable doing so, to give it a whirl, to put their hand out, give a shake, share their resume. We every year have students as freshmen getting internships accidentally because it's a requirement for the career class that they attend the career fair, and it's a requirement that they talk to 3 of the employers and they end up getting hired. So it's never too early to start. Strongly encourage that. The class, the required career development class, is typically taken during sophomore year. But if it's something that a student is really hot and heavy to get involved in, they can certainly take it freshman year so we can help them prepare for that. So that is that question. And there was one more question about, do the students get emails about career fairs? And Dean O'Connor addressed that through the newsletter.
I think what I'll do is I'll just show a newsletter real quickly so people can see the information that's in there. I didn't think to do that, but let me share my screen again, and we'll show you a newsletter, and you can see that within the newsletter, all the career events are there. So just give me a second here to pop over to the newsletter. So this comes out, as I said, every Sunday afternoon. And you can see, starts off with events, and you can see, you know, a lot of the events that are going to be within the business school are related to careers. It could be, you know, a speaker on campus, a learning event, a meet and greet event, career fair, or interviewing. So you can see this was last week's, but we had Etna in here to talk about a great career and what is underwriting. We have a semester in DC program. Obviously, this is virtual this year, but in subsequent years, it will be an event. An opportunity that students can take. We had our People's United Center for Women in Business have a coffee talk. I always have my office hours. Any student can sign up to talk with me if they would like. We had PepsiCo here as part of our career fair program. We had TTI, which is part of Berkshire Hathaway here. They were doing resumes, so the time, how to sign up is there. We had a talk about diversity and inclusion. And then we also had, you know, information on our upcoming virtual career fair. As I said, there's, you know, deadlines and reminders. Here's the headshot option that Jill talked about. Big Ideas, another, it's a campus-wide, you know, philanthropic event that all of our students have the opportunity to participate in. Zoom resume reviews. If you're interested in, you know, innovation and maybe have a business idea, our endowed chair of entrepreneurship and director of our People's United Center for Innovation was doing office hours on that. Here's some clubs that are meeting this week. So you can see that, you know, anything that's coming up, particularly career-wide, is going to be in the newsletter. And so that's where students are going to go. So they don't have to monitor their inbox all week long to find out what's happening. It's just going to be in the newsletter. They're going to get that Sunday. They can plan their week around it.
Okay, there's a question here that I'll throw to you. Do you know, Connor, can a current freshman still apply for the 4+1 business program?
Yeah, so the 4+1 program, actually, you do not need to apply for that program until your junior year. We run information center sessions about it. We certainly meet with their advisor or with Associate Dean Michael Taylor about the 4+1 program. But the great thing about the 4+1 program is you really don't have to make any decisions about it until junior year. And the other thing is, it's a very streamlined application process. So the 4+1 program, you don't have to take you know, the extra GMAT test. We basically use 2 criteria for the 4+1 program. Your GPA here at Quinnipiac. And we look for you know, ideally a 3.25 or above, but it's holistic, so that's not an absolute cutoff. And then secondly, we're looking for your interest and that there's somebody on campus, one of your faculty members or your advisor, and we look for a couple of letters of recommendation. So really, it's a very streamlined application process, and you can apply anytime in your junior year. And the reason we do that junior year is because it is a dual degree program. So in your senior year, you start taking a couple of MBA classes or other graduate classes so that you can finish in that extra 1 year, whatever your graduate program is. But plenty of time to do that if you're a first year.
And there's another question in here about social responsibility that I'll give to you, Matt. How do you encourage social responsibility in addition to career goals?
Oh, that's a great question. So first of all, throughout the business curriculum, we have a series of exercises, case studies, and readings, all related to you know, ethics, business ethics, social responsibility. And you probably know we're an AACSB accredited business school. And one of the things we're required to do as an AACSB accredited business school is make sure that we cover ethics, business ethics, and corporate social responsibility. So in the academic part of a student's program, there's going to be coverage of that all the way through, starting in SB 101 and continuing through our capstone course and strategic capstone course, not only for the school, but many of the majors have their own capstone courses. So that's the academic side. Throughout the year, we have a number of speakers, and we'll always have at least some of those speakers who will speak on corporate social responsibility or broader social responsibility issues. So for example, this year, we have already had one, it was actually a panel discussion on corporate social responsibility, and we had two officers from external corporations come in and talk to students and answer questions in a panel setting. We have another one coming up in a couple of weeks, and then we're going to do one more in the spring. So there'll always be, at the business school level, speakers who will talk about social responsibility related issues. And then finally, we do have a business ethics class. It is an elective class, but students can take our business ethics class, which obviously spends a great deal of time on corporate social responsibility issues. And then, so that's sort of what we do in terms of programmatic and kind of speakers and activities. But the final thing is that almost all of the student clubs and organizations will take on social responsibility related activities. So I'll just highlight a few. When we went through the newsletter, you saw the big event. The big event is a campus-wide, year-long, 2-semester program that students pull together. They design what they're going to do for the year, but it's basically a very big fundraising event, and they'll generally raise $250,000 to $300,000 over the course of the year, and the students will determine what philanthropic groups or charities that the money will be provided to. But many of our student clubs will do smaller versions of that. And we have, for example, a microlending student program here that works with local organizations and one international organization, in which students are providing, and this is real money, microloans to small businesses and small entrepreneurs, again, both here in New Haven County, but we have an international partner in Leon, Nicaragua that we work with. And so students have the opportunity to really, learn how in a business context, microlending can be, very effective in helping, people who otherwise don't have access to capital get their start in a business endeavor. So there's a variety of ways, I guess, across the board, from the academics to programmatic events, to student organizations that really encourage social responsibility here on campus. And I think, Jill, maybe I'll pass this back to you, because those all become things that students can put on their resumes. And those are great activities to have on your resume for when you're doing an interview, because a lot of recruiters will ask about those activities. They often become really a big part of the recruiting process.
Well, I think, and then also just all the transferable skills that come through all of those different opportunities. So what other questions do we have out there? I think we've answered everything that's been in the chat so far.
Well, I see one about the newsletter. Yeah, so I see you've kind of answered it in the chat, but if you would, as a parent, if you would like to receive the newsletter, just send your email address to that sbdeans@qu.edu, and we'll get you on the distribution list. And again, it comes out every Sunday afternoon.
Okay, there's another question. How is MBA 660 going to be handled with no international travel?
Oh, that's a very good question. So, and for those of you who don't know, MBA 660 is a course in our MBA program, which is an international immersion course. So as part of the full-time MBA program, students do a class in which they travel either to one or a small number of countries. These are faculty-led travel opportunities, and they're very focused on business. So they might take 10 days, 12 days, 2 weeks. It depends on the itinerary and where we're going. And generally, the focus on sort of the Monday through Friday timeframe is that students will be visiting companies. They'll be meeting with the executives of those companies. And it's really a chance for our students to kind of, in a one-on-one basis, really see how business is conducted overseas. And really relate that to whatever, their career goals are, or whatever, how they see themselves kind of developing, over the course of a career, and how, international business is going to relate to that. And then, on the weekends, there's various cultural activities that students get engaged in. So that's the normal year. We'll do maybe 10 of these international travel programs. And some of them will always have some options for undergraduate students to do these as well. So if you're an undergrad, it's not just the MBA program that does travel immersion classes. Our undergraduate program does them as well. So how are we doing that this year? Well, obviously we've had to make some adjustments because we cannot travel this year. So we're giving students basically two options. The first option is we are going to develop, and we're in the process of developing, a virtual travel option. So this will give students the opportunity to work with a faculty member, picking a select part of the world to learn about. We can obviously, through Zoom, have meetings with business leaders and executives in other parts of the world, even if we can't travel there. So there will be a non-travel version or virtual version of MBA 660. We'll have all the same reading assignments and kind of background learning about whatever part of the world we would be going to virtually. But it's not, obviously we're not going to be traveling there. The second option is going to be, because this is a unique year and not everyone is going to find a virtual option appealing. So we're going to allow students, if they really don't want to do that, to just substitute another class for that. And it'll probably be another type of international business class, because we still want to have that international business exposure. But they'll either be able to do a hands-on virtual class or another international business class as a substitute.
Okay. Great. There's another question that came in. My daughter is a freshman and part of the 3+1 program. She doesn't have a major declared. She was told she could declare by the end of spring semester. Do you have any suggestions as to the best way to make that decision? Also, will she need to take a class during the J term and also the summer term, question mark?
Wait, so that is, Jill, I was looking at, is that a 3+1 question?
Correct, 3+1.
Yeah, so for 3+1 students, they can select a major the spring of their first year, but if they're not ready to do that, they can also select that major the fall, even up until the end of the fall of their sophomore year or second year. So it's not something they have to do this spring. On the other hand, they will have had SB 101, which does introduce them to all the different business majors and the career opportunities that are generally available to students in those majors. They will have started the business core curriculum. So if they feel comfortable, they can absolutely select that major, at any time. But they should not feel pressure that they have to do it this fall or in the spring. they can continue on and really declare that next fall if they would like to do it that way. And then the question as to whether they need to take a course in the January term, it all depends on the student and if they brought credits, AP credits or other college credits, or how much they want to do, in summer terms. So that is a question that they really should sit down with their advisor and discuss. And if you're a 3+1 student, you actually have two advisors. You have an academic advisor, but then our associate dean for student services, Michael Taylor, is also an advisor to all the 3+1 students. He's the 3+1 program director. So any student in the 3+1 program can always talk about their major choices with either their academic advisor or with Associate Dean Taylor. And there's another question about the email address, so I'm gonna just type it in. So, so if you look in the chat, I'm gonna type that in right now.
While you're doing that, Matt, if I can just tack on to that as well, because in case there's any anxiety about somebody figuring out what their major is going to be, there are a couple of things that they could start doing today. So on QUCC, there is a resource called What Do I Do with my major, or What Do I Do with a Major in? And so say you're considering marketing, when you click on the marketing tab, it gives you all of the different areas that employ people in marketing, what type of job opportunities they are, and what skills are associated with that job. So that's one thing that I use when I'm working with students to help them kind of get a sense of what would feel good to them, what would make them happy doing on a day-to-day basis. Are they willing to take on the skills and earn the skills that they need to be successful, etc. Another thing we have is a service option called Career Leader, where they take a 240 question assessment, and it's all based on interests, because the theory is your interests don't change. Your interests today will be the same interests 5 years from now. And I know for me, my goal is to make sure that all of our students go into a career that makes them happy, that is of interest, because I don't want people becoming an accountant just because their mom and dad and grandparents were accountants. I want to make sure it's something that they want to get out of bed every day and do. So Career Leader is hugely helpful in helping students to determine that. And then lastly, what I love to do if I was working one-on-one with a student right now, if they kind of had an inkling of what they'd want to do, is I would literally sit down there and I would pull up job descriptions for particular areas. And I would read through the job description and see what is the day-to-day like. Is that something that the student that I'm working with would enjoy doing? Obviously, they don't have a full sense because it's not something that they're physically doing, they're just reading. But I find that that really does help students narrow down, because if they're looking at a job description for a social media marketing intern, for example, and it sounds awful to them, oh, I don't want to be on social media all day. Well, that's not for them. Or say somebody is very shy and they don't enjoy public speaking, but there's a particular job that requires a ton of public speaking, or they don't like to travel and it has a lot of travel involved. So that is another way that I sit and work with students to try to get a good sense. And then lastly is if I went to Bobcat Connect, and I could always put students in touch with different alums that are working within different fields, so they could just talk to them about the day in the life and get a sense of if it's something that they would enjoy. And I'm happy to set up shadow opportunities and things like that. And then someone's asking about which classes are usually taken during J term for 3+1.
Yeah, so for the 3+1 program, generally during J term, what students have done, we'll always have a few of our core classes, so they could possibly take a core class. But a lot of students will just wait, and once travel starts back up, they might do an immersion class in January in the J term. And some students can also do, if they, depending on how it's set up, they might be able to do an internship during the J term. But in general, there's several options. So there isn't one J term class that all the 3+1 students do. So for any kind of J term class that a student might either be considering or think that they need to do, that's something they should sit down and talk to their advisor or talk to the 3+1 program advisor, Associate Dean Taylor. But if you're a first year, there's absolutely no reason to be worried about doing a January term class this year. Typically, the 3+1 students would not be doing a January term class their first year. Although, if they want to, there are options available for them to do that. And I see there's a question about biomedical marketing and science classes. So again, the marketing department has 2 faculty that serve as the biomedical marketing advisors. And they're the best people to work with any student who's in biomedical marketing to plan out their course of study, including the science classes. So again, it might vary a little bit student by student in terms of what they want to fit into their schedule and at what point. So there is flexibility around how you're going to meet the requirements for the science classes in biomedical marketing. So that's something that we would really strongly encourage the student to sit down and have a conversation with their advisor about that. And one of the things that they can do in the course of that conversation, or before or after that conversation, is they can get on the student services site where they can plan out their curriculum, and they can put in the semester when they want to take that class, and then they can keep it all organized on their self-service site. And the great thing about that is if it's there, then their advisor can always see it. Anybody in the dean's office can always see it. And as a parent, you can say, hey, what do you have going on self-service in terms of your curricular plan? Because it's sort of a platform that allows the student's advisor, the dean's office, and if they want to share that information with you, it's what you could see as well. So it's a great platform to be able to organize your course of study, but we always encourage students to really work with their faculty advisor on the correct course of study.
Okay, we have about, are we 10 minutes? Are we over at 2? Do we have
Yep.
any more questions?
Yep. And again, if you have questions, even about something going on at the university, if we can't answer them, we will certainly, get the answer for people. So, really anything you might want to know about, we're here to help. So, let us know what your questions are.
We just did such a thorough job. We stumped them.
Hey, if you know how to use it in Zoom, there's the reactions. I have a question for all of you then, and you can either use the reactions, or it's actually a small. It's not a huge group of people, so you could unmute and answer if you want. But how's your child doing? Is anybody care to share how you think things are going? Oh, I got 1 or 2 thumbs up. That's great. That's great. Oh, and we do have another question. And the question is, are there tutors specific to the business school classes? And the answer to that is yes, absolutely. So the Learning Commons, which you probably heard that term, is a great resource for all students. And, even if your child is not currently, kind of expressing that they have concerns in a class, I would encourage them to check out all of the workshops and all of the opportunities at the Learning Commons. It's not just about getting tutoring. The Learning Commons has workshops on organizing your time, has workshops on prioritizing, it has workshops on specific types of tests you may encounter. But in addition to those general workshops, the Learning Commons does have tutors for courses both within the business school and across the university, where we find the most, that the most students have issues or concerns. So for example, one course, Intro to Accounting, Intro to Finance, are a little bit more math and quantitative oriented. So students sometimes, in a larger proportion, might have some concerns about, their progress in one of the accounting or finance classes. So there are tutors available they can go in, they can sign up for a tutor, and they can get tutored in those classes. And it's not just those two, those are just two that are kind of more common. Whatever if there's a specific class that your child is having, or expressing some concerns about, or maybe they've shared a grade that wasn't quite up to what they thought the grade should be, encourage them to go over to the Learning Commons. And the Learning Commons will actually do some diagnosis about, what might be leading to this, what could you do as a student to maybe change study habits, maybe change the amount of time you're studying, or some other kinds of, personal development steps a student can take. But those would be in conjunction with the specific tutoring that could go on in any class. And then particularly for first-year students, all first-year students do have an academic coach. So if a student is, struggling, or maybe they're not struggling, but they just want to do a little bit better. Maybe they're doing fine, but they want to do better. Encourage them to go have a conversation with their academic coach. And their coach can kind of help them plan out more comprehensively the steps that they should take for whatever kind of, either academic or program improvement that they are looking for. And that may include getting specific tutoring in a particular class. Oh, and then we have another question about our 4+1 program. What are the graduate programs that are available for the 4+1 program? We have 3 programs that students can do as part of the 4+1 program. The most popular is going to be the MBA program. But in addition to the MBA program, we have an MS in accounting program, and we have an MS in business analytics. The business analytics, the MS, we started offering that as part of the 4+1 program last year, and it's proven to be very, very popular. But those are the 3 program options: the MBA program, the MS in accounting, and the MS in business analytics. And Jill can kind of maybe talk a little bit, but the placement for our graduates of the 4+1 program is really just as strong. I mean, our MBA students come out and they're getting great placements. Obviously, in today's world, business analytics is a very, very hot area. So those students are doing great. And you cannot get an MS in accounting without having a lot of career options open up for you. So one of the great things about the 4+1 program is those 3 degrees really are stepping stones to great careers. All right. Well, we're almost out of time. So if we probably have time for one last question. But if not, please, I think one of the 2 takeaways were, because you can get a lot of information. I'll answer this other 4+1 question in just a second, but you can get a lot of information on a whole parents weekend. And sometimes it could be, a little bit overwhelming, all the information you get. So my advice is just remember 2 things. One, and it's in the chat, that SB Dean's email address, because you can always get in touch with us through SB Dean's. And secondly, if you want to know what's going on in the business school, sign up for the newsletter, because that's really the best way to see what we're doing on a day in, day out basis for everyone. All right, so our last question then is, what percentage of students in the MBA program are 4+1 students? Well, we actually have 2 versions of the MBA program. We have a full-time version, and then we have a part-time version. So all of the 4+1 students go into the full-time MBA program. It's actually a very pretty popular program. And give or to any given year, about a half to 2/3 of the students in the full-time MBA program will be 4+1 students. But they're not all business students. Program with the across campus. So we'll always have in the MBA program with the 4+1 students from health science. We have engineering students, we have comm students, we have arts and sciences students in that program. But again, it's not all 4+1 students. So you're going to have all of our other full-time students are in the mix with the 4+1 students. Those will also include our JD MBA students, because we have a joint degree with the law school, JD MD students, because we'll always have a few of the doctors in our medical school who will combine that with an MBA program. And then in addition, both the School of Health Sciences and the School of Nursing, in their advanced degree programs, they'll have an MBA option for those students as well. So the MBA program, the full-time MBA program, it does include a number of +1 students, but it's much broader than that. And the backgrounds, it's a great set of backgrounds for students, because it really does draw in students from across campus, but also full-time students who want to also complete their MBA on a full-time as opposed to a part-time basis. All right, so I think we're just about out of time here. We want to thank you so much for joining this session. It was recorded, so if you missed anything, you can always go back and get the recording. But really, if you have any questions, we are here. We're here to help. So, just shoot us an email, and the best way to get in touch with us, again, is sbdeans@qu.edu. So with that, I think we're going to wrap things up. We're going to say goodbye. Have a wonderful weekend, and we hope to see all of you soon. Thanks.